Hey, welcome back. I'm hoping that you're doing okay and I'm ready for another session with you, another book. So, this book is called The Third Wave by Steve Case. It's an interpreter's vision of the future, so entrepreneur vision of the future. So, the co-founder, Steve Case, in this book, I don't know if you ever heard about this, but he talks about kind of like how technology is kind of going through waves, or how it went through waves, and he has three waves, and he calls it the third wave because that's the most important part. But Steve Case, he's the co-founder of America Online, which is AOL. He outlines his vision of the future of the internet and the technology has. And he describes three waves of technological and economical development. So the first wave he describes about is this initial wave. We're starting with some kind of this technology that's kind of connecting us to other places, and it's not like going to the library anymore. You want to research, it's there, and it's like, where does that stuff come from? And so it's the initial development and adoption of the internet, what we call the internet, the World Wide Web, which is WWW. And this is from 1980s to 1990s. This is kind of where, like Cisco Systems, Microsoft, IBM, and then what we have America Online, which is our connection of internet, America Online. The second wave is from 2000s to 2010. So rough in there. And this is kind of like where you have the internet there, but it's the applications that we are creating to make life a little bit more, I don't know, soothable. Probably not the best word to use. More easy, accessible. Anyway, but it's the application part of that. And he talks about, like, it's the service of the internet that we have. Now we have Google, we have Facebook. It was MySpace first, but MySpace was a long time ago. And it was just the development of connecting each other with the world. And so now it talks about this third wave. And really, the whole thing about this is the integration into our lives, where the internet is taking us towards our future. We're doing our partnerships, and where the government has to kind of restrict certain things that we see on the internet versus policy rights. Now we're using the internet to research food items, healthcare, transportation. Every kind of different sectors. Education's a big one. I mean, a lot of people now you can get your master's online without setting foot into a classroom setting, I guess. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about here in this session. So let's talk about the first wave in the book here that Steve does. This is between like 85 to 99. So we're coming from the Cold War, and the Cold War ended about 1990 when the wall came down, and so we had the space race going on. But anyway, there's a lot of sophisticated stuff that was going on. So this is kind of like the building of the internet. This is before the Y2K era, which has happened when the turn of the century. AOL, American Online, the internet was being born. We had the IBM, and we had this thing called the internet, and Microsoft were kind of battling the Apple computers, and so we had a world, the World Wide Web was born, and so about 1996, that's kind of like when it all kind of came about. So about 1996 is when we have America Online. We had this internet, what we call internet, which is the World Wide Web, or WWW. So that's kind of like the start of it. And we were kind of uncertain. People were kind of like, "Oh my God, I'm getting a computer, and this noise is going ding, 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 ding," like that on the. If you ever heard of modem, a modem is about this big, and it's about that long, and that was the modem starting up, and it was dial up. And so if you remember a little bit, depends on the audience, is that you have to wait for the modem to go on, and you also were tying up a phone line, because we had phone lines before a whole lot of cell phones. And it was kind of funny that I had one of those, and I got the computer, and I taught myself how to use it, and then I kind of was teaching my parents, because we got a desktop computer with the internet. It was slow, believe me. But the second wave from 2000, so after Y2K, 2000s to 2015, where's this second wave. And believe it or not, it's this surge, this surge of the internet. We had social media becoming, we had the applications, we had MySpace, Facebook, Instagram. All the social media networks are kind of developing and coming out, and it's a lot easier to communicate with each other overseas. And so that's kind of where the application's taken off, and then education was getting access. So now the whole book talks about the third wave. And we have this third wave coming, and this is kind of like, this book, by the way, was written in 2016. So it's a little bit, I don't want to say outdated, but it's not up to like, artificial intelligence. So benefit of the doubt. It's 2016, okay? And so it was, this time was the transformation of the internet. So you kind of have like WebMD. You're having like streaming services now. Netflix, Blockbuster was kind of, and Redbox are kind of like going out. And so the technology is kind of, I don't want to say taken over, but we can't deal without it. If the internet went down, some of us would kind of pull our hair out and say, oh my God, what am I going to do? I lost all my connection. My job's on the line. And I can't talk to my family. It's crazy. We depend so much on the internet. So Steve, he kind of comes up with the three C's. And so one is content, the contextual, and the community. And so what those are, there's kind of like this wave of connectedness. We like the content that we search online. We love the community involvement. And so the internet was about this third wave, is that we're getting more involved with other corporations, other communications around the world. And if you want to think of like a wave of motion. He describes this a little bit, and I kind of put my math brain into it. But think about this wave, and if you know anything about wave motion, you start kind of at a stationary point, and then you have this wave that kind of comes like this, and at the top it's called the crest of the wave. At the bottom it's called the trough. And then you have another wave. So he calls it like, well, when a wave crest is at the top, think of it like this. There's so much potential. There's so much potential energy. Energy is waiting to be used. And so that's kind of like what the third wave is doing. It's like we have all this energy that's built up. From here, from the wave 1 to wave 2 to now we're kind of like on the wave 3. Now what's going to happen with all this potential? It's gonna, what's it going to wash away? That's kind of interesting. He didn't use that word, I used it, but kind of what's it going to wash away? And so we have all this different kind of technology, this AI that's coming out of this. Think about like the applications before that. Think of like what sonar was. Think about what GPS was. GPS, global position satellites, were actually they were before, but World War II were using them to find locations of things. So technically, it's a defense thing. So GPS was actually a defensive move that we were taking for granted today in our cell phones, and when we travel, we know where we are. So kind of think of that. We're taking that freshness there, that GPS, and now we're kind of using it for our advantage. But it was used for military use and weaponry, and it was defense things. It was kind of crazy. And then we have Google. Now we can't really get away from Google. Google is kind of like a monopolized of our research, our engine. Think of all the apps that we have now. But anyway, that with that comes with policy, with the government. Now, the government is very slow in their thinking and policies, and sometimes that's very afraid. So remember, you have this third wave up here, all this potential energy in this wave, and so it's just now, where is it going to go from there? And remember, this book was written in 2016, so he hasn't got exposed to probably AI too much. And so a lot of concerns with policies and the government. The government's very slow in their thinking, their planning, and they're very conscientious. They want to take some credit or take control. And you have these startups. You have like a startup wants maybe to create an app or something like that, or create something kind of useful for the internet. And we have all these startups, and startups are very temporary. They're not like a small business. A small business is kind of like they had to take a loan out. But a startup, they get investors to invest into their company, so they give them lots of money, and hopefully it takes off. And then but a business that you can kind of say like a small business actually takes loans from a small bank. So the takeaways from all this is that the internet is transforming our lives to something we interact with all the time. And I think that's great because I use the internet. We all use the internet. We're using it right now. And everything we do has something to do with accessing the internet. So if you want to get some facts on Amazon or facts on WebMD or get something ordered or transportation, it's amazing that the internet or your banking, it's amazing as that you're using so much the internet access to collaborate and to communicate and get things done. It's very interesting. And the government is always going to have to be in our way in a way because, if you have a small business or something like that, I mean, they do want their cut. But technology like Facebook is, for security reasons, it's a good concern because thing is about technology, and I think it's that potential right there, or that third wave of potential, there's a lot of what we call security that comes to mind because technology can be used against us. It's so crazy to think of it this way, and it's kind of scary, is that, if you have all this technology, there's a way that it can be used against us. So I think that technology, in my view, is very manipulated and abused. And so that's kind of the drawback. So there's always a pro and a con, I guess, right? So there's this technological advancements that we're having now. This a lot of potential waves. So, AI is starting, so it's kind of like gonna be crushed. That potential energy in that wave is kind of gonna come down and crash into us, and that's kind of where AI is developing. And what else? I mean, we're uncertain about the future, but there's a lot into this book, and I really like this book. It's not a bad read. There's a few pictures of it in there. There's about 200 pages. It's a I don't know. It's not that bad. There's good quotes in this book. And I kind of got this book kind of cheap. But sometimes you got to look around a little bit to find some good books. And even though that, if you have some dollars, some money, and, if you have some money to go and, I don't want to say waste, but invest extra money, see if there's books out there that are kind of cheap. And then, sometimes just pick them up and you'd be surprised. Yeah, read the cover of it, but it's interesting to see what the author is talking about, because I never knew what this guy was. He's actually well known. He actually, I don't want to give him credit. Well, I guess I should give him credit, but he kind of was very responsible for the internet age. Yeah, it's Steve Case. He actually met a couple presidents, and interesting things. There's some pictures of him in this book that you might want to look at. But yeah, he was. You can Google him and see what he's doing. But he met Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, and Bill Gates. So very, very kind of like that in that group of innovators, if you want to give it that way. So hopefully that makes more sense and interesting read. So go pick it up, and I will see you on the next video. Have fun.